Hey, everybody. Notice it's just me. I don't know why Tom didn't get his butt in here on time, but I'm just going ahead and starting it because whatever. Yeah, and I just, right before I started recording, I lost my pen. I don't know where the fucking poltergeist must have taken it because I have no fucking idea where I just had it. I just had the fucking thing. It's not this one. I had a different one.
Bar on the
All right, I already started.
It started good.
Well, yeah, because it's already time to...
Went in there and the damn bar on the ice maker flipped up. I'm being robbed of ice in this house.
Robbed of ice.
Yeah, I don't know how it happens. Every now and then that damn bar inside the ice maker
Did you take my pen?
Got it right here.
Well, not that pen. It was a different pen.
That was the only pen I had.
Okay. Well,
I got that pen right over there.
Your poltergeist took my pen.
Did it?
Because
I just got this pen right over there.
Okay.
Yep.
I had to dig this one out of my purse and it doesn't really work. I have no idea where my other pen went.
I don't know.
I just had it like 10 minutes ago.
It's
a fucking mystery. I don't know what's going on.
Look at it. She's starting the show without me.
Well, you weren't in here.
I was coming.
It's 3:00.
You could make him wait for a second and go, hey, Tom, go to the fucking show.
It's like, get your ass in here. you need to plan ahead. That's what you need to do.
I did plan ahead.
No, you didn't plan ahead.
I made a fucking iced tea.
That's good.
And then I'm going to go in there and make a whole gallon of lemonade when the show's over.
Alex Rivera. Oh, okay. Tom's back. I thought maybe the poltergeist transported him. Yeah, it took me to the same place where it took my pen. I'm really mystified as to where that fucking pen went to.
All I have is that Sharpie right there, and I got it underneath.
Yeah, it's not that one. It's like this. It's like a ballpoint, but it's black. This one, like I said, I dug out of my purse just because.
I don't see it.
I don't know. I probably have more in my drawer somewhere. No, it's all right. I'll just need it again later because I can't do anything without a pen.
All right.
All right.
Got 13 people on here.
Yeah. Why is my phone ringing?
They're calling you. You guys calling, Jenny?
Nobody's calling me. I don't know who the hell. It's not the same number every time. But it probably is. It's probably like bill collectors. It's like,
it's an Indian call center.
Well, actually, it's coming from the 386 exchange, which is Volusia County, somewhere where I used to live.
Yeah. What are you for?
I don't know. Like I said, it's probably...
You got a traffic ticket?
No.
No?
I don't think I've ever got a traffic ticket now that I think about it. I've got warnings a couple of times.
Yeah.
For speeding and shit, but I don't think I ever got a ticket.
Might need to pay that shit. I don't want to be sitting up here one day and fucking Boba Fett jumps through the fucking window looking for you.
Yeah, I'm an international criminal wanted by Interpol.
I'm like, what the fuck?
Well, yeah, I'm just gonna say I'm an international diamond smuggler.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I think
I'm wanted in 30 countries.
I think it's international terrorists and fucking I resist and get fucking mowed down because you didn't pay the damn fucking parking ticket.
Yeah, I'm sure they're really gonna come after me for not paying a parking ticket.
Yeah.
Dude, I didn't even I had a mortgage that was underwater many years ago, and I just kind of the house because they stopped fucking with me after a while. They stopped fucking with me after a while.
Shit, everybody fucking got a.
That's what I mean. It was kind of like happened to everybody around the same time. Yeah. So they dicked with me for a while and called me, but after
2008 financial fucking collapse, or wasn't it? 2008,
or something like that. Yeah.
Economy collapse.
Because the house I bought and this was like years and years ago, but I bought a house for $85,000, and then when I was going to sell it, they were like, well, maybe you could get $35,000. Yeah. And I was like, dude, I still owe like $70,000 on it.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, fuck it, I'm leaving.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they stopped fucking with me. That was like a long time ago. Yeah. So they probably don't even care anymore. I just don't know. I kind of feel like those calls are they're all coming from that area. So it's probably just, I don't know, it's sales or some shit like that. Because I don't ever answer my phone.
Bee's Nest is going through Mexican customs right now.
Oh, really?
That's what he says.
That's cool.
Yeah, and he works over there.
Well, okay. I gotcha.
He crosses the border every day.
That must be a pain in the ass.
Yep.
All right. So I wanted to do another little matinee because there was another movie that Shudder added that was a fairly new movie. I think it just premiered at some film festival in Scandinavia in November. And then it just dropped on Shudder like maybe a week or two ago.
Yeah.
So this is a Norwegian movie called Lake of Death.
Yeah.
Now, this movie, I didn't know until I started going and doing research on it. But apparently this is actually based on a novel from 1942 called Lake of the Damned. And that was actually made into a movie already in the 1950s. And that movie, like I think it was 1958, and that movie was apparently like a big like Norwegian horror classic or whatever. So this is essentially a remake or like another version of the book.
Yeah, that sounds it's clicking now. The movie didn't really. This is a well-made movie. It looks really good. It's got a good cast in it. It's all in foreign language, but it didn't really catch me early. So I wasn't really into
it. This was like
hold on. What I want to say is this making sense what you're saying, because this movie reminded me a lot of that remake of the Turning.
Yeah, this was better than that.
It's a lot better, but
that movie
I could tell
made me angry.
I could tell that it was based on some kind of a book or based on something else, and it's real serious. The tone is serious for me. You know what I mean? I kind of like the Brazilian one better. I like this.
Well, because that was so wacky.
Fucking wacky shit. I like that better, but this for me it's more fun. This is actually a very serious horror movie.
Yeah, and it was like it's one of those ones where, I mean, like I said, I liked this movie a lot better than The Turning, but I will say that it's not going to be anything that's going to be like a super standout or anything. It's just like a solid, creepy, maybe supernatural, maybe something else is going on type of movie. Yeah. It's weird because it's kind of like a throwback. I mean, which makes sense. The novel was written in the 40s, but it's very much like a cabin in the woods type of horror movie, which obviously has been done a lot since then. So I'm sure it was probably like a lot fresher, like back in the 40s when that hadn't been done much. One thing that the filmmaker did do is you could tell that whoever made the person that made this movie, Nini Bull Robsham, I think is their name. They are a big horror fan because there are a lot of references to other horror movies in this. Specifically, there are 2 references that I noticed to Nightmare on Elm Street. Like one of them, they even recreated like the bathtub scene, that very famous bathtub scene where Nancy's in there and the claw comes up. They did something very similar to that. And they also made a reference to Freddy Krueger. They made a couple references to Evil Dead, specifically with this cabin and with it, like the basement, like, and the way the door came up and stuff. And there was just even like, I don't even know if this was a direct reference, even though it was the first thing that I thought of. There might've been even a direct reference to The Raft, that Stephen King story that was like made into a movie later.
It's funny because the opening part of the movie kind of reminded me of that.
Yeah. And there was one scene like late in the movie where black shit started coming up through like the thing. And it reminded me very much of that, like from Creepshow 2.
Yeah. I really didn't even catch that they had fucking made references to Nightmare on Elm Street and Evil Dead. I at that point, I really kind of was zoning out at it. It's a little slow. The way it
is. It's not super long. It's only like an hour and a half.
It's a well done movie though. I tell you, it had really good underwater shots.
I think that was like the best. The cinematography is really nice. Like wherever they shot this, like, because obviously it's like this, kind of creepy old cabin on this really big, beautiful lake in Norway, I'm assuming. And yeah, the underwater shots at the end were gorgeous. They were like these really dreamlike kind of shots. And the characters, like, I didn't even realize this either until I researched it a little bit. But apparently, even though the movie is Norwegian, the characters in it are actually speaking 3 different languages. They're actually speaking Norwegian, Danish, and Swedish, I believe. But I mean, obviously I didn't know that because, it was all just subtitled in English.
They all sound the same.
But apparently, well, yeah, it like all sounded similar enough that I wouldn't have noticed that. But I guess like a native speaker would notice. And a couple times, like one character did say to another, and hey, what does that word mean? Like when one had like something written on his forehead and he has, it's the Norwegian word for whatever. So, you know what I mean? They did kind of make a mention that one of them was Danish. So, but I didn't really put that together. But the characters in this are, pretty likable. Basically what the setup is, it's a very simple setup. It's just, there's kind of like a small prologue. There's this girl named Lillian, and she had a twin brother named Bjorn. And he had apparently, there's kind of a little thing with them. They're, they have like the weird twin synergy thing going on. And he disappears a year previously. They don't go a huge amount into the disappearance, but they just say he disappears and they presume that he's dead. I don't even remember if they said they presumed he drowned in the lake. They just said he went off in the woods and he never came back and they never found his body. So a year later, she comes back with a bunch of her friends and they're going to, because she's going to sell the cabin, and her friends are like encouraged her to go out there like for some closure or whatever, because they think that she needs that. But when she gets out there, she starts experiencing weird shit. And it seems like a lot of her other friends are experiencing weird shit too. In the sense that, you know, like weird shit will happen. Like she starts sleepwalking. She starts having these creepy nightmares. Shit'll happen. Like they'll all get up and the table's been set for breakfast, but nobody did it. Like nobody's like, did you make breakfast? No, I didn't make breakfast. And like, there's a chair out there and like, there's a plate there, like somebody's eating there and they don't know who it is. So it seems like someone's creeping around, fucking with them, but they're not sure if it's a living person. Cause then they start like getting suspicious of each other, like thinking one of them is doing it a prank, because there's one guy who's along with them, who's like, you know, the fifth wheel type of dude, who's actually was probably my favorite character because he was kind of funny, but he had like a paranormal podcast. So he was like the first one to get the blame, like every time like something creepy happened, because everybody thought he was just doing it like to make the show more exciting or whatever.
So funny how like podcasters and YouTubers are now like main characters in movies now.
Well,
it's thought of that shit.
Yeah, it's funny because I know I've seen so many movies, and normally it's like, I don't know, I might get into this a little bit because I feel like it's really, really hard because I've seen a lot of movies where the main plot of the story revolved around a YouTube channel or so, you know, a movie like Cam or a movie like, or something like that, where I think we reviewed one too.
Well, there's so many paranormal fucking YouTubers and shit, YouTube shows that a paranormal movie is going to be about that scene.
Yeah.
Remember that shit?
Yeah.
I mean, the Brazilian one wasn't the only one like that.
There have been a lot.
Yeah.
And I don't think we reviewed it, but there is another one on Shudder that I think was it Korean? What was it? Was it called 0.0 megahertz or something like that?
Korean.
And I think it was Korean. Like we watched it and it was pretty good, but it's like
we just paranormal Korean.
Yeah,
show.
We just never got around to reviewing it.
Yeah.
But it was the same thing.
Great, though.
It was just kind of a middle of the road sort of. I don't even really remember that much about it.
Kind of like a derivative Korean ripoff of everything else, all just kind of combined into one.
Yeah.
Show. Like The Ring over and over again. Everything kind of like
in the main that. I tend not to like movies that are based around, like I said, a technology of the moment.
Yeah.
On the other hand, it's kind of hard to make a movie without talking about.
Well, if you ask me, YouTube is the modern version of television. I'm sure when TV first came out, movies didn't want to reference what was going on in TV. TV wasn't considered to be like a real medium when it first came out.
Yeah.
Did you know that?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, they were like, if you were on TV, you weren't shit.
Yeah, which is funny because that kind of switched around.
Yeah.
I mean, because nowadays it just seems like, well, I feel like the distinction has vanished.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's either you're going to streaming or a cable show, where it's really no distinction anymore.
Yeah.
Because people a lot of people don't watch things even on the original, you know, platform for which it was made. You're just going to stream it later when it comes out on Netflix or whatever, even if it came out originally as a cable show. Right. So it doesn't really matter in the end.
Yeah, cable's fucking dead, man.
But that's the thing. It's like, it really seems really hard to do. Cause you see movies like Friend Request or, you know, movies like that, where it's based around, or the one we saw that was called, Amy, like AMI, which I don't even remember if we reviewed that one or not. It wasn't really that great. Where it was like like a Siri type app that was like evil. It like made you do evil shit. And I understand that, you know, in the modern era, everyone's life is so wrapped up in technology that it's kind of hard to avoid. But in some ways, I feel like it kind of cripples you as well, because one, it dates the movie. You know, people are going to watch that 20 years from now and be like, look at that lame ass bullshit. Because whatever the fuck they have in 20 years is going to like be way better than what the fuck we have. It dates your movie. And also I don't know. There's something about it that sort of bothers me. I've seen ones that I liked, you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's kind of,
but
I don't know though. I mean, I'm watching like, there's a YouTube show called Wang. He's like a Chinese American guy, long hair, looks like a metalhead. And he does all these cool little programs on shit that happened on the internet back in the 90s and the 2000s. And it's funny because he would show sites from the 80s and the 90s, and I forgot the way the old internet was.
Yeah, you can go to the Wayback Machine and look at that stuff. It's ugly as hell.
Yeah, but there's kind of like a sense of nostalgia when he starts telling the stories of like internet stories and internet memes from the 90s.
Yeah.
From the late 90s and the early 2000s, you know what I mean?
I remember some of that.
Some of the weird shit that was going on at that time.
Yeah.
On message boards and
because that seemed like where most of the activity was.
Yeah, and memes of the time and songs, and like people were lifting little bits of fucking of music out of video games and putting those on the web as background music for some fucking picture that they made, you know, just funny shit, you know what I mean?
Everything was so cobbled together.
Yeah, it's all cobbled together.
Well, because everybody had dial-up.
Yeah.
But everything was super slow.
It had a certain, you were saying that it might age funny, it might do the reverse. It might be very nostalgic. That's what I think will happen.
It's just,
It'll probably just be very nostalgic. It'll be like, oh, I remember back in 2020 when they had that.
I was when
I was a kid back in 2020. It could be like
it's interesting because I was watching a video essay the other day about how a lot of comedy ages badly. And this is something that we've talked about
comedy
before.
Ages like shit.
And I think that horror might have a similar problem because what he was talking about a little bit, you know, with comedies, because he's talking about, you know, watch like Ace Ventura or something like that nowadays, and it seems really cringeworthy. And he was kind of trying to explain why that was. And I think a lot of the things like still apply with horror, in the sense that one, you know, even if you see a trope, like when, for example, the Blair Witch Project came out, that was a very new, like the found footage thing hadn't been done a million times. You know, it had only been done a couple times before, like Cannibal Holocaust and maybe a couple, it's like The Last Broadcast or whatever. So, you know, you got that. So it was like a big thing. But now that it's been done so many times that now it's its own subgenre and people are kind of like sick of it. You know what I mean? So you can see just through repetition that it's going to be kind of, you know, hard to do. But also, I don't know. It just seems to me, and I feel like I'm one of those people that's like, if you're a good enough writer, and if it's a movie, if you have a good enough characters, then, you know, people you care about, and it's a decent concept, I mean, you can make a good movie out of anything. Pretty much anything. I'm not going to say anything, because I'm sure somebody will come up with something that that's impossible to make a good movie about. I'm sure there's something, but I mean, you can make a good movie out of almost anything. You know, I would be hard pressed to think of something that you couldn't make a good movie, but you have to be clever about it. And so I'm not going to say that there's not a good movie to be made about, you know, a killer app, for example, or someone who's a podcaster or something like that. But it's just that so many of them are crap that you get, you know.
Remember that fucking terrible movie, Johnny Mnemonic?
Johnny Mnemonic, yeah.
Yeah, where he's like a human fucking thumb drive.
That's right. That didn't age well, did it?
No, that didn't age well at all. For some reason, he could store computer data in his head and he would transport it like a smuggler. Pre-internet,
and now, like people
pre-cloud.
That are like teenagers or in their 20s now are watching that going, what the fuck? What do you need that for?
Yeah.
What does that even mean?
Fucking computer programs in your head and you take it to somewhere and sell it to somebody in a file, you know, and it's only like a megabyte. You know, what the fuck? That was a fucking shit movie there.
And so, yeah, I haven't seen it in forever. I don't even remember if I've seen the whole thing all the way through.
It didn't make sense to me back then when I saw it.
It's true.
Like, what the fuck is this shit?
I just feel like it's anything you're going to do that's like of the moment. And this was another thing that this guy was pointing out. I can't remember. I think it was Renegade Cut, the channel on YouTube, where he was talking about like why comedy ages so badly. And he was kind of talking in particular too about, and we've talked about this before too, is those terrible like parody movies, like Scary Movie and that kind of shit that parodied horror movies. And they're like, the problem with a lot of those is a lot of the parodies or a lot of the jokes they're making about are so of the moment. And some of the stuff that they make fun of were just like commercials and stuff like that. And that, you know, 5 years from now, no one's going to remember that shit. Yeah. So it's like, you're not going to remember what the reference to the joke was.
I can go back even further than that to those Mel Brooks movies. Most of those didn't age too well.
Some of them did, though. Young Frankenstein
did.
Is still hilarious to me.
History of the World is not funny.
Blazing Saddles is still funny.
Yeah, that's right, bro. Probably so funny. But fucking what? I
haven't seen History of the World. History of the World did not. I probably haven't seen that since I was.
It wasn't fucking funny anymore. It was funny when I was a kid.
I haven't seen it since I was a teenager.
It's kind of like Eddie Murphy Raw, that stand-up show. That was fucking hilarious back in those days. I look at it now and I'm like, shit, man. That's just like a regular dude talking. That's not funny.
Yeah.
You know, back in those days,
as I said, things were like shocking at the time, and anything, it doesn't even have to do with like being shocking.
No.
It just has to do with what people have gotten used to.
Yeah.
As I said, Blair Witch Project made all the money in the world because no one had seen anything like that. Not just the movie itself, but the whole marketing campaign about it, where they were making it like it was a real thing, and like the actors had to go into hiding and shit. Yes, Cannibal Holocaust did it like many, many years before that, but that one wasn't as well known, at least in the United States. So to most people, this was like the first time they had done this, the first time they were experiencing something that was like an alternate reality game before that even had a
And that
name.
was early internet era.
Yeah.
And that helped with that.
Yeah. When was that? 99?
98, 99,
somewhere
around that time.
Around there, end of the 90s.
It was like very early internet, beginning of fucking ordering fucking shit off of fucking internet. You Hot Topic
and your
online,
web TV,
and web TV, and doing it's fucking funny time. And then listening to Art Bell live stream over the radio, which was fucking
live streaming over the radio.
They would live stream his radio show online.
Yeah.
And that was like fucking a big deal because I couldn't pick it up on FM radio where I was.
Well, yeah, because you weren't close enough.
Wasn't close enough, you know what I mean? But you could go online and they were live streaming the radio transmission. I thought that shit was so fucking high speed, man.
Like, whoa, it's the future.
Yeah, it's like the future already.
Just like the Jetsons.
Yeah, just like fucking, just like, just like fucking Total Recall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Remember back in the old days when you couldn't listen to a radio station that was like the next town over?
Yeah.
It was too far away. You couldn't get it to come in. Because like every now and then, because like, I grew up in Daytona. All we had was like fucking country stations and like classic rock and shit. Yeah. So it's like, I would always try to get like the college station from Gainesville.
Yeah.
Every now and then, if the weather was right, you could get it, and it was kind of
radio.
You're like trying to like point the radio at the window and shit, like trying to get the good music.
Fucking, you attach a wire to it and a coat hanger on the other end, trying to make a bigger antenna.
God, it was dark times back then.
But I have fucking web TV, and I was fucking tripping out. I was like,
"That's what I mean."
Man, I'm in the future. I thought I was in The Running Man. Remember when fucking when Arnold fucking gets a plane ticket to Hawaii?
Yeah.
Over the television? I thought that shit was fucking super.
And now people are watching it going.
Now people are going, what the fuck is that? They're doing it on their phone.
Yeah, you can just do it on your fucking. Okay, done. I'm gonna get on the plane.
He paid for a plane ticket on the television using his credit card. He swiped his card.
On the
swiped his card.
Little did they know you don't even have to do that anymore. You can just go dink. You can just touch it with the fucking shit. But yeah, it's like, it's funny because, well, it's weird how we went off on that tangent because, I mean, in this movie, it doesn't really, the fact that this guy has a paranormal podcast, it doesn't factor into the plot. It kind of only serves as one, so he gets blamed when weird shit starts happening at the cabin, and two, so that they can give some backstory about like a creepy legend about the lake, like about this person that like killed his wife and kid and then like jumped into the lake, and and then there's this whole urban legend about if you like fall into the lake, like you live forever or something like that. It's like a lake, not a lake monster, but like a lake ghost type of legend. So the fact that he has a paranormal podcast means he can interview somebody about the legend of the lake, so he can tell the audience. So that's kind of like what
they're talking about reading Lovecraft in the comment section.
Yeah,
reading Lovecraft is kind of a chore because Lovecraft, his stories are not about what happened or action. They're not really action stories. They're more about mood.
Yeah,
mood, and he's usually telling you about something that already happened.
True.
It's weird. So it's kind of like reading old 1800s Gothic stuff from the 1800s is what it's like reading.
I've read some on Witching Hour, like some Lovecraft stories. Not a lot because I feel like they've, a lot of them have been read and a lot of people have heard them. So I try not to, unless it's, it's one that doesn't get read very much. Yeah. But
it's not a modern style.
His stories tend to be very short, I've noticed. Yeah. So it's like if I, need a story that only takes me 10 minutes to read to slap on the end of the Witching Hour show, I'll just put a Lovecraft one on there, like to fit in with the theme. But something I've noticed, and that it's another thing too with horror stories, and I hate to say, but I haven't read like a lot of real recent horror fiction just because I haven't had time. I like a lot of classic old ghost stories, but I will say that I can see why people might not be into them, because just like anything else, I feel like it was not a new medium necessarily, but maybe there were some, literary devices and things like that that were, kind of new back then, but they've been done so many times subsequently because, these were very influential, that by the time you go back and read the original one, it doesn't sound original because you've read all the shit that came later. You know what I mean? And I think that happens with movies a lot too. Just in the sense that you see a horror movie nowadays and, or you go back and watch an old one. And somebody was saying this too, in some of the comments of like that video essay, they were like, the thing about it is that, they were younger, and they said, I had heard so much about The Exorcist and I had never seen it because they were younger and it came out in the 70s. So when they finally went back to see it, it didn't have the same impact because it's been so memed and so talked about, and people have seen clips of it and it's been parodied and everything like that, that it's never going to have the same impact as you just coming at it with, no preconceptions.
Yeah, especially in the time in which it came out.
Right. And which is kind of a shame.
Young guys can today appreciate things like Terminator or Predator, the very first Predator when it came out, but you will never know what it was like to be about 16 or 17 sitting in the audience seeing Predator for the first time, and that thing takes its fucking mask off.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I saw it like on day 2, second day of the release. Nothing had leaked. There was no internet. You couldn't get spoilers over the internet.
Yeah, a lot of shit wasn't ruined for you at a time.
No, and when that Predator took that fucking mask off, I thought I had seen the top. I thought I had seen the monster.
Yeah,
it took that fucking mask off, and that face looks so real, and it still stands up to today.
It still looks really good.
It looks real, even compared to the newer ones. It looks better than the newer ones. That original fucking.
Well, yeah, because costume. That's an actual.
It looked fucking good. And I just felt like I had seen a fucking extraterrestrial, and the fucking the whole audience just went fucking silent because we had never seen anything that looked that good. You know what I mean? Up until that point, the only thing that was close to that was like Alien, the xenomorphs, real close. But man, that thing took its fucking mask off, and I was just like, "What the fuck?" And I go, and I immediately realized I was seeing a masterpiece.
Well, yeah.
As soon as I saw that face, I was just like, this movie is a fucking masterpiece. And it stood the test of time.
In a way I don't mind. And there's nothing you can do about it now. So it's no sense in like whinging about it. But, the ubiquity of pop culture nowadays, everybody, you can't avoid it. And even like old pop culture from when we were kids, like everybody knows about it. So even if you've never seen the movie, you can't watch it without any preconceptions, because you've heard about it. You've seen about it, memes of it. You've seen clips of it. It
has its place in society already. When that thing was new, it was an unknown quantity. Our reactions to it made it legendary.
Yeah.
Because that thing was when it was brand new, there was nothing like that. And it was just a cut above the rest. And it was, and I think that costume was made by a kid, wasn't it? A guy who's pretty young.
Well, he was very young,
He was young at the time, but he was just fucking fantastic work.
Yeah, because I think the original costume they had for it was like really stupid looking.
Yeah, then they took it out. The Predator that we know was the second one. The first one didn't look good.
Yeah, because they did it and they're like, we can't put that in the movie.
Predator 1 was saved during reshoots.
Yeah.
But then there was another thing, is that you could watch Terminator 1 today and it does not have the same impact as it did when it came out for us when we were young.
Yeah.
Because Terminator 1, nobody knew who David Cameron was. Or James Cameron.
Yeah.
This is James Cameron. We didn't really know who that was. And that movie just came out of left field. It was just another Arnold movie. And we were just like, wow, what the fuck? And this idea that there was a robot underneath there. And then you got to eventually see it. See, I thought when, as I was watching that movie, I thought it was a kind of I liked it, but I was like, it's a ripoff. It's a way of getting around having to make a monster.
Yeah.
Like, no, you saw the monster. The skin burns off of it, and then you see the fucking robot. And it was just in the context of the time, it was fucking awesome. And it was a horror movie. It wasn't a sci-fi movie. It was a horror movie for us.
Yeah.
It was like Jaws. This shit kept coming.
Well, it definitely is. I mean, it has sci-fi elements, obviously, but it's structured much
Yeah.
more like a horror
And
movie.
everybody seems to like T2 now. I was there, man, when that shit was new. I didn't really like T2 as much.
I loved it when it came out, but when I watched it again years later, I didn't like it as much.
I just thought it was okay.
Mostly because that kid was annoying as shit.
Yeah, I didn't really like the kid either. And
he didn't seem annoying in the 90s because all the other kids in movies were like that. But when I see it now, like, 10, 20 years on.
For me, what made the Terminator so good was that Arnold as a bad guy. And you see, he wasn't going to do any more villain stuff. So they had to bring a new villain, which is the liquid metal guy. And to me, it just didn't do the same. It wasn't the same. Well, it was okay.
We mentioned before that Arnold actually, the roles that I like him in are when he plays a villain.
Yeah,
and he didn't like to play a villain. He likes to play a hero. And I feel like when he has to play a hero, they have to inject humor into it just because, look, he has a funny accent, or look, he's a big, huge muscle guy. And he has to do this, feminine thing, like watch a bunch of kindergartners or some shit like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like they always have to like make it funny, which undercuts any suspense or anything like that, which is kind of a shame. He really should play more. He should have played more bad guys.
He was afraid he'd go out of style if he did that, though. Because
he might have, but he was probably right about that.
Because the villains all get defeated, and then they just see you being defeated over and over and over.
We talked about that in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Yeah, exactly. He knew exactly what we're talking about. It's true.
I just feel like he does play better villains. Yeah. Because when he plays a good guy, they always have to make him funny.
He's more convincing as a villain.
He is. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Because he's a big stoic dude. And when they put him in like a serious role or a good guy role, they have to work around that somehow. And they usually do that by making it like comedic. Right. And I don't, I've liked a lot of his, where he plays a good guy too. And I feel like he's gotten, the roles that he's done more recently, like Maggie and stuff like that, where he's just playing a normal person without having to be like a smartass or, or dorky or anything like that.
They're talking about what their dads saw in the original, and that I saw Star Wars 1 in 1977 on day 2 at Mann's Chinese Theater in fucking LA. So that's where it was opened, and I saw the original cut, and that was the cut. That was it. Later on, when I saw it again, like for the 4th and 5th time, shit was missing. But it had a scene where Biggs was trying to tell Luke to join the rebellion. That was in the first couple times that I saw it. And then there was also a scene where fucking C-3PO was fucking driving the land speeder.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was in the original cuts that I saw, but then they trimmed it down.
It's interesting how sometimes they cut up movies while they're in theaters.
Yep.
They did the same.
I was in the theater.
I was just listening to somebody talk, Grumpy Andrew, Grumpy Andrew's House of Horror. He was talking about the terrible Exorcist 2. And he was talking about how that was edited twice while it was in the theaters. Yeah. Well, just because it was like doing so badly, because it's a terrible movie.
One I saw them edit in the theater was Alien 2, Aliens. Originally, when I saw it, it had a scene in there where the Marines had set up some automatic guns to protect their robot guns to protect their perimeter, and the aliens were just running into them damn guns, chewing up all the ammo. A lot of them got killed trying to fight those guns. They cut that scene out, but you can find it online.
Yeah.
But originally, when I saw it, that was in there, and when I saw the movie again, I was like, "Hey, what happened to the scene where the robot guns were shooting and the fucking counters, all the ammunition was going down and nothing? Where'd that go?
God.
Yeah, where'd that go? Yeah, they took that out. But seeing Star Wars brand new, I was about 8 years old. It fucking blew my mind. We had never seen anything like that. With the fucking big triangular ship flying overhead, and the next thing you know, I just saw C-3PO, this fucking robot with R2-D2 running around in the ship talking, and everybody was laughing. I was dumbfounded. I was like, what the fuck am I looking at? And that was like the first really convincing space futuristic setting.
Yeah.
You could totally buy it. And it was just like, it was badass, man. And then, T1 new was really good. Just all that shit that you guys remember seeing it for the first time. I don't think those days are ever coming back. And I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that we were kind of naive and didn't, and that type of cinema was new, and nobody really knew what the extent of special effects could do. Now special effects are nothing.
Now you can just do anything.
You can do anything you want, but
much.
back then you couldn't. It was special effects were real expensive, and we didn't know how convincing they could be, and I think that was a huge factor.
Yeah.
And so imagery had a lot of impact on us back then. Now imagery doesn't mean anything.
Well, like I said, because it's ubiquitous.
Yeah.
And because, I mean, and like I said, it's not younger people's fault that they were born later. And so they, you know, have already had the experience, all of these like movies and shit like that. It's like in their past, you know what I mean? So
kids are
already seen all of it.
Kids are growing up with fucking phones and mobile devices that can make imagery far beyond what we ever could imagine back in the 70s.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you have an HD capabilities on a handheld device. That's just,
which is crazy.
Never thought of that, anything like that.
No, I would never have. So, I mean, I knew shit was going to be like futuristic, obviously, but
I thought it was going to be like Alien 2.
Yeah.
You know, Aliens?
Yeah.
If you look at the shit that they have, it's not very futuristic.
Yeah, everything's still very
bulky and fucking. I mean, a lot of that stuff that does look like military and industrial equipment. You know, anything military is bulky and fucking strong and dumbed down, but it has to be because you know that it has to operate between minus 50 degrees below zero up to about 230 degrees. That's about what they want it to survive. You know what I mean? So any machine or computer built to survive that temperature extreme is going to look fucked up. It's going to look like a tank.
Yeah.
Tanks can take probably 250 degrees of temperature. You know, they're built for that. That way, if one tank blows up or is catching on fire, it doesn't fucking destroy the tanks parked next to it. You know what I mean? So it could survive something like an air raid or
makes sense.
You know, so that way they can resist damage. You know, they can be in a hangar that catches on fire, and a lot of your tanks survive. You know.
Mango Badger says, "Fuck, me and Tom are almost the same age."
Yeah. Yeah. So you remember what it was like, man, seeing all that shit for the first time, and you know it was new to the world. So you'll never really see that again. Not in our era.
I mean, I think when you watch new movies, because I mean, I have to do this to look. I'm almost 48, and it's like I try to, especially with horror movies, because you know I'm a big horror junkie and I love horror movies. So I always try to put myself in the mindset of I don't want to get to a point where I'm just like so cynical that I can't like get into a movie or I can't, you know, just kind of lose myself in the world of the movie. So I do actually always try to do that. You know, it doesn't always work, obviously, because sometimes the movies aren't that great or aren't that engaging, but I usually will like give it a chance.
Yeah.
And try to finish it and try to get engaged with it and try to get involved with it. Just because, I mean, somebody made that and like somebody spent like all this time and all these people like got together and made it. And I respect that. So, you know, just because it's not always successful, I'm not going to like shit all over the stuff.
But then another thing is that just because something's made by a fucking badass director that has a lot of good movies behind it doesn't mean the movie's gonna be good either.
Well, I try to take everything as a singular.
Like it seems to be to me that directors have a half-life. Like Cameron, his word ain't shit to me. I mean, he's come out with a lot of bad movies lately.
Well, it's just kind of like musicians, not always, but it's like most of their best stuff is when they're younger.
Right.
You know, once they start getting older and more complacent, they have a shit ton of money, and it's like they don't really need. They're not hungry anymore. They're need to do it.
Paid commercials and shit inside the fucking movie, and they're fucking with their own canon and everything in their own films. Like for instance, Predator. The Predator franchise was doing good. You didn't have to change anything about predators taking people's DNA and that. It didn't need any of those that complication. That actually fucked up the lore. They should have just left it alone. The best thing about the Predator is not to talk too much about it, because the more you fucking talk about that alien, and the same thing those goddamn xenomorphs, don't talk about them, because the more you know about them, the more demystified they will be.
I say that about every single horror movie.
And the fucking shit just falls apart because you've now explained it away.
And also, the more you explain something, the more like the larger the likelihood that you're gonna like contradict some shit.
Yeah, there's all kinds of shit.
Someone's gonna get mad at you.
Yeah, about it starts to contradict.
I mean, you can't leave things so nebulous that you can't get a hold of it, that it's too slippery or whatever. But you can't, especially in horror or suspense or something like that, you can't over explain your monster or your villain or anything. It just takes all of the, it takes all the mystique away. It takes all the fun away. You just, and it's you just like, can't do it.
And they fucked up Terminator by showing you Skynet. As soon as Skynet takes on some kind of human form and starts speaking, and now you can communicate with Skynet, there goes all your mystique.
Yeah, because it's like a known quantity. It's an entity that you can communicate back and forth with. It's much scarier when it was just some kind of like thing and you didn't know.
You didn't know what it was,
or how it operated, or
it was just some kind of an insect type computer intelligence somewhere in a computer, and that's all you need to know.
Yeah. And honestly, coming back to this particular movie, Lake of Death, I think that was actually, even though, like I said, this was a fine movie. It was, fair to middling, just not great, not terrible. If you like this type of thing, you like Norwegian horror, you like kind of like old school, like supernatural kind of stuff. I did like that they left it kind of ambiguous. I guess they didn't leave it super ambiguous, but they did leave it ambiguous as to, I don't want to spoil it, but what the nature of the haunting was, I guess. I don't know if haunting is the word that I would use, but I'm trying to keep it kind of vague. But so they did kind of leave it as to how much of the shit was supernatural, how much of it was imagination, which I usually like. That's usually a good thing to do, is leaving things ambiguous. I know it does piss some people off, but I think that's a better... I don't know. I just think in horror that makes a better, makes more of an impact, and it makes you remember, because it spurs discussion. I think, why does this my fucking
They keep calling you.
See, there's another one. That's a different number though. I don't know why they keep calling me from over there.
Stop calling her.
Stop calling me.
Yeah.
I'm not going to answer it. I don't even answer the phone when it's somebody I know.
We got to end this stream. I got to get in there and make some shit.
Well, we have to record too. After, because remember I told you, but we have to do that as well.
And we got to make shirts.
And we got to make shirts today. I thought we were going to do it yesterday, but we never got around to it.
Okay.
All right. So we are going to finish up this live stream today talking about Lake of Death, which is now streaming on Shudder if you want to check it out.
Yeah, it's okay movie.
It's it's like I said, it's completely decent if you just want a creepy movie to watch and you don't really want to get all that invested in it. It's fine. We'll probably do another live stream tomorrow, either another matinee or another or a sidetracks or whatever. We'll think of something. So we'll see you guys again tomorrow afternoon. Bye.
Okay. Yeah.